After a few hours of work, reading a book that you'll never finish reading, and a gym session, you tell yourself, today was productive. Tomorrow you do much the same, but you procrastinate on your work. But hey, you took a cold shower, so today was also productive. And day by day, you keep finding the silver lining, because you know, guys, positivity is key. But here's the thing, 365 days later, you start asking yourself, was today even productive? Is the stuff that I'm doing even moving the needle? Or am I just convincing myself and telling myself this because it soothes my ego? And yeah, look, I understand. We all say that we learn from these experiences, but at what point do we stop collecting lessons and start seeing fucking results already? If you've only got 1 minute, this is the core thesis of this video. Your brain is awful at learning and seeing what progress really is. And for that reason, it labels everything as either good or bad with virtually no in between. And this makes prioritization almost impossible. And until you fix this, you will never be able to determine the good tasks, the actual good tasks, which will give you progress, from the ones which are pretty much cope and will leave you being this guy. The gap between what feels productive and what actually moves your life forward comes down to one thing, and that one thing is called polarity. Your brain wants everything to fall into the categories of bad or good with no in between, because thinking is hard. It takes up so much time and energy. So when you're binging these gimmicky self-improvement YouTubers and they tell you these are the good habits, guys, you need to meditate and cold shower and these kind of stuff, the thing is your brain learns these as the good habits, and it learns that, you know, when you want to be productive, you must be doing one of these habits, which isn't a bad start. But if you're only doing these things, it's not always going to be the right play. As funny as it sounds, we are all special snowflakes. We're not clones of each other. You know, for one guy who's been reading for the past 2 years and not actually putting in the fucking action which he needs to grow his business, he doesn't need the advice to go and take a cold shower or to read even more or watch a podcast. He needs to ruthlessly implement some action to actually change his life. So, obviously, for that person, reading is not that good of a habit, whether or not we want to admit this, right? Once you start labeling habits as good, it doesn't matter which one you pick because it's productive from now on. So which one are you going to pick? The easiest one, the most comfortable one. Of course, the guy who needs business progress but has a huge fear of rejection, he's going to start watching podcasts, telling himself he's educating himself. That's how he ends up in the position of the guy in the intro, telling himself it was productive with zero progress made. This gives your brain the plausible deniability, the ability to evade blame, to tell yourself, oh no, I'm being productive, I'm doing the right thing, when you know deep down that that is not the case. But even if you know this, you know, because your brain is wired for polarity, to conserve energy, it's still really hard to actually determine the good action from the bad one. So that's why I made my own mental model. To break out from under the illusion of polarity, you must start thinking in terms of expected progress. I got this variable from mathematics, from probability, but another field in which they use this concept very well is actually football, soccer for the Americans, fucking soccer for the Americans, okay? So what you do, or what they do in football at least, is they have this variable called XG, and this basically assesses every single attacking for how threatening it was. So what this means is if a guy took a shot from here, from very far out wide, you know, from 30 yards away, it's quite unlikely that this person's going to score, okay? So he probably has like a 0.03 or, you know, a 3% XG. All this means, okay, is if he took this shot from here 100 times, he would score 3 times, okay? And on the other hand, if, you know, he did the passing, he passed here to there, and he's in behind the defenders, and he's taking the shot from here, it's very likely that he's going to score in this case, which gives him an XG of like, I don't know, let's say 0.3 XG, meaning he's going to score 73 times out of 100. Your habits work in the exact same way. A cold shower, you know, okay, it might boost your dopamine, but how likely are you to actually have that be the thing that makes the difference? Is that really going to be the reason why you got to work? Or the reason you didn't catch the disease because, you know, of heightened immune function or something like this? Probably not. The cold shower in the lens of expected productivity is quite low, maybe like a 0.04 expected productivity, kind of like this shot from here. Your brain on polarity would think that this thing, and also, you know, cleaning your room and also going shopping and these kind of things, which are somewhat necessary, but they're never going to be the things that actually move you forward in the long term, right? That's the point here. These habits are good habits, but their expected productivity is tiny. This might seem super obvious, but be honest, man. How many times do you delude yourself into doing this shit instead of what's actually important? This is why the past year of productivity, like the guy in the first example, is pretty much doing this. He has a bunch of shots from afar and he's like, damn, why is the score still 0-0? Or why am I even losing at this point? Because you're trying and the score sheet looks like, oh, this guy has a bunch of shots. This guy's doing the good habits, you know. But why do you not score any goals? Why do you not make any progress? It's because you're not doing the right things, obviously, but you're just deluding yourself and giving yourself the plausible deniability to feel good, to keep your ego in check. But even if you know this, to be honest, even if you break free from polarity and switch into the lens of expected progress, how do you determine which action for you is this shot? Which action is the most important thing? So I accidentally made my own matrix about expected productivity, and after this I realized that Eisenhower pretty much has the same thing, so as far as I'm concerned he copied me. But regardless, what this means is you have the long and the short-term tasks, and you have the important and the unimportant tasks. This is what you should be focused on, okay? The top left quadrant. What the top left quadrant basically means is the shit which will give you all of the progress. This is training if you're an athlete. This is working if you're an entrepreneur. This is training on the right stuff and working on the right stuff also, because even within these kind of things, we can often delude ourselves to be in the lens of polarity, doing the right thing when it's obviously not the most productive thing you could possibly do. In the top right, these are quite dangerous actually. These are what I call the catalysts. Oftentimes, these are the things which you kind of must do, or some of them are optional, but these are the things which won't actually give you any progress if you think about it. Long term, if you think about how many times you clean your room or how many times you drank coffee, you're not going to remember, because this stuff isn't actually that important. They can be if what you're doing afterwards is important. So for example, if you imagine a timeline, and let's say, you're doing your catalyst, you're drinking your coffee, you're using your vision board, you're doing some kind of shit which will give you dopamine, caffeine, some kind of focus or physiological benefit, maybe you're going in the negative if we're visualizing progress because, you're wasting a bit of time, you're not really doing anything. But afterwards, if you do your important task afterwards, what these things will allow you to do is they will give you maybe like a 10 or 20% increase in your performance of that important thing. So you're going to be focused because you drank your coffee. You're going to be more cognitively clean and energetic because your room is clean. So be careful with these because they're not important in the sense that they won't give you actual tangible progress, but they can be if you don't cope afterwards. Moving on, in the bottom left, we have the things which are the most dangerous. Okay, this is what I call the productivity cemetery, because this is probably where all of your time goes if you feel like the guy in the intro. It's watching YouTube on Top 10 ways to survive on a deserted island. Motherfucker, you understand how polarity plays a huge part in this, because you could tell yourself, oh, this could be productive, in the future, what if it happens to me? I'm going to be the guy that with the biggest status, I'm going to know what I'm doing. Is it going to happen though? Like this probably has an expected productivity of 0.0002%. Okay, it is kind of productive because you're getting something as a product out of your time. Is it anything tangible though? Is it going to happen? I don't know, probably not. And a lot of things which you don't want to admit fall into this category. Designing your website when you don't have any traffic yet. Rewriting the format of your newsletter when you don't even have 50 email signups. This kind of shit, okay? If you just focused your time on, doing outreach in these instances, you would be so much better off. And finally, in the bottom right, we have the unimportant short-term things. This is, you already know, I'm not going to waste much time on this. This is eating junk food, instant gratification, you know the drill. But even knowing all of this, in the moment, you're still gonna pick the easier task. Not because you're weak, but because your brain hates ambiguity. The most common reason for procrastination, bar none, is lack of clarity. So in the rest of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to give you 100% clarity to the point where your brain has no other option but to do the hard work. To make the work absolutely inevitable, we need two perspectives, the eagle and the mouse. The eagle plans, sees the big picture, knows what to do next, but struggles to really focus in on very specific aspects of what it looks over. Whereas the mouse is literally in the ground. It only sees 1 inch in front of it and it has absolute focus on what it's doing right now with lack of bigger picture knowledge. Most people randomly switch between the two without even knowing either exists. However, if you want to get stuff done, what you must do is you must have clear times in your day when you're operating from the eagle and also from the mouse perspectives. Because what I personally do is at night, after I finish with the most important tasks which I'm doing, which have high expected productivity, I switch into eagle mode. And when I'm in eagle mode, I tell myself, okay, I'm going to switch to mouse tomorrow morning, and I need 3 to 5 most important tasks which will actually move the needle for me. Then, once I'm done with the stuff for the day, once I'm not in an emotional state, once I have time disconnected from me and actually doing the thing, because it's so much harder to actually go for the run when you're about to tie your fucking shoes. No, not good. Most people get randomly stuck between the two without even knowing they exist. Constantly in a state of, I should be working more, I should be resting more, I'm not doing enough, damn, why am I so lazy? And it doesn't make any sense because you get no progress done like that. What I personally do is I write myself out 3 to 5 tasks every single night, non-negotiably. This happens when I'm in the eagle perspective, when I've already clocked out of work for today, when I'm no longer in my mouse perspective and I know what I'm doing. I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm not emotional about any of the work I have to do. I'm just looking at it from an objective, logical stance. What I do is I put this note on my computer where when I wake up and I'm in mouse mode, this is the first thing that I see, these paper notes. What happens is I literally give myself no option but to do the thing. When the mouse sees the specific tasks it has to do in the morning on the first point of contact, all ambiguity dies right there. It knows what to do. End of. When it's super obvious what you must do and the task at hand, is actually important, productivity becomes so fucking easy. Even the hard tasks, which we were, avoiding by using polarity, don't seem that scary anymore once we know exactly what to do and that it will actually give us progress. No discipline required, just clarity, action, and real progress. That's how I defeated my devilish tendency to constantly work on shit that doesn't matter, always being productive but never actually experiencing progress. If you want me to help you personally, one-on-one, I have a few slots. If you want me to personally help you for free, click the link below to my Skool community and we'll be in touch. Goodbye.